One. Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful, very humble, and very happy to have Jane Rhoda back on the show. I reckon it's been nearly 3 years now. It's been a long time since we've crossed paths again for a chat, Jane. Jane, for those that don't know, my new listeners and new viewers, Jane is a holistic sex relationships coach. She's also an author, public speaker, and as I said to her off air, all-round legend. Jane, welcome back. So grateful to have you here. It's been a while. What's been going on?
Well, I'm excited to speak to you because, like you and everyone listening, our lives are up and down and things happen and that we have to deal with. And the key is to be emotionally resilient in the face of what's going on, to be the calm amidst the storms that come our way. So I think all of us are being tested in that direction a lot at the moment, and to be harmonious in the face of what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, and becoming more conscious and more aware of our own stuff. You know, people can be aware of the worldly stuff, but then there's stuff going on internally that's a bit of a shit show. Is just that mirror moment where you're shining the mirrors back on you.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing is, I think, to put it into context, that everything happens for a reason, for our spiritual growth. Now, it mightn't be everything, but if you can live inside that belief system, your life will be more powerful. And nearly everything does happen for a reason. If I give you an example, well, this is how I made sense of something. That my car was broken into. I was visiting my dad. My car was broken into at my dad's house, and my computer was stolen out of my car, and not all my work, my life's work, not all my life's work was backed up. So I had to be the calm amidst the storm. I didn't get the computer back. I lost about 13,000 in a crypto wallet. It was pretty big stuff that happened. And then I thought, so it was a test of who I was going to be in the face of that happening, number one. And also, this has happened for a reason. It's like the lesson. We don't know until later on that we can connect the dots. But if you just look at it in that time, what was the reason? My dad is like 90, nearly 96, and he lives by himself. So maybe it was in the middle of the night, maybe by them breaking into my car, it saved my dad. If I hadn't have been there, it might have saved my dad from being injured, broken into, bashed, who knows, because they may have gone into the house. And because, my it's an older Mercedes, but, it was like, oh, there could be something valuable in here. It might have stopped that and saved my dad. But also around my work, okay, it's like you can't take what I know away from me. And also, maybe it's a time to create a new phase in my life and recreate a lot of things. So even the worst of things, you can be calm in that storm when you take it to that other level. Anyway, that's just an example.
It's a very good example, because a lot of people have stuff going on, but they allow it to, stress and worry and anger and blame. Your perception,
Yes.
your perspective was very good there, Jane.
Because most people, and I could see I had a choice. I can go, although I didn't really go into that much because I've trained myself a lot, because it's a practice, as you know. We have to practice these things until it's like we automatically drive a car, It's just it's automatic. So when we practice these things, we automatically go into this space rather than going, oh, those bastards, those assholes, it's not fair, damn it, this is going to really this is going to mess up my life for a few months, and why does this happen? It's not fair. I mean, how does that serve me?
Well, it
And
doesn't.
yes, that doesn't make it right that those guys, well, I'm saying guys, could have been girl as well with them, right? It's interesting how we go to guys, don't we?
Yes. Yes.
Because statistically, it's men that are more likely to commit crime.
And why is that?
It's an interesting question. Why do you think?
I think it's to do with the programming, the movies, the TV shows, family homes. These little boys just want attention.
And the violence in the video, games when they grow up.
Yeah.
And also guys, teenage boys are more inclined towards drug addiction, alcohol addiction. They've got a more addictive personality. They're more inclined. So they can go off track more easily and commit crimes when you're under drugs and alcohol, obviously, and things like that. And also in today's society, I think, Nathan, because you're the one speaking about this, there's not a lot of authentic male role models. As you say, what they see on the television is not a very inspiring masculine role model.
No.
And what does it mean to be a man? So they're lost too. But luckily, most guys, young guys, don't get to that stage. They don't do that.
No.
But for the percentage that do, it is often more guys in the jails. We know that.
Yeah. Let's switch gears. So we had an intention for today, Jane. We were going to help, well, not help, but we're going to be able to open up to the unlimited potential of the divine connection and to be able to help people deal with triggers that arise, which is clearing space for miracles and transformation. So what does that look like? And how can people that are like me, currently single and in a relationship, old, young, whatever, how can they come together to be able to have the safe space created and also the communication? What does all that sort of look like?
Okay, so if I say number one, it's self-awareness. It's about know thyself. And knowing thyself is getting into the unconscious mind, which is what you don't know that you don't know about yourself, which drives your behaviors.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Also understanding 90% of our behaviors are driven by the unconscious mind.
Yep.
So it's also understanding with communication that, do you know, you probably do, Nathan, what percentage of communication is verbal?
This is like, it's pretty high, no? Like 70?
Verbal?
Yeah. No. Am I wrong?
No.
I actually don't know.
That's okay. It's good. Things I don't know that you'll know.
Yes.
So 7%. It's only 7%. Yes.
Non-verbal.
7%. The rest of it is our voice, our tone of voice, and our body language. Most of it is body language.
Yeah, that's big.
Because our body speaks louder than our words, correct?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And for your audience, and a reminder to myself all the time, I do stand tall with my shoulders back. You start observing people, the way they walk and their eye contact, and observing those people.
It's a good one.
You can see, you can actually pick up messages about people by just looking at them. And often we can say it's judgment.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're given this skill of picking up clues from people's body language. It's a God-given gift. And also people put out an energy field around them.
Yes, aura.
An aura. And start looking at people that you know. They're putting out a message. What are people putting out in their aura and in their body language? Oh, I'm scared. You know,
That's the big one.
You see people with masks on too, and their eyes, and sometimes they're hunched over, and you look at them and you think they're terrified. Their eyes, their whole demeanor, the way people dress, even you could say dress is judgment or whatever. But everything we put out a message. It's like I say to young women that,
here we go,
the feminists scream at me, but if you're walking around, like even women my age, if you're walking around with going out, you know, to see bands or whatever, with super really short skirt and your breasts hanging out, like, what's the message you're putting out to men?
Go on, Jane. What is the message they're putting out to men? What is it? Tell me.
They're putting out a message that I want to impress you with my body. And men, I believe, pick it up as she's up for sex.
I 100% agree with you on that one. Because I used to be that guy that was hook, line, sinker.
And sometimes women don't realize, they think they're just looking sexy and pretty for the guys. Because I know when I grew up, I'm older, but I grew up in the miniskirt era where the skirts were really short, really, really short. We didn't hang our boobs out as well, but the skirts were really, really short. And I know never in a million years did I think that was a message to guys to, I was putting out a message of, I want to have sex with you.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna pretend to be a feminist for you, Jane, because I just, you know, I've got a question, and because they'll listen, some will listen.
Just let me clarify.
Are you saying women should cover up, Jane? Is that what you're saying?
No, we don't need to be like a Muslim with our burqa and everything on. No.
But what's the balance here?
You can be sexy and modest.
That's true.
In fact, it's actually.
You're saying it's more of an ego thing.
It's a mystery. It becomes mysterious. It's like what guys can't see can be mysterious, but you can wear clothes that show the shape of your body and cling to your body, but cover you, that are modest and fashionable, all that. The difference is, like, it's horrifying to me when I'm on trams or I'm walking behind girls and they've actually got their knickers showing and their ass sticking out. I'm thinking, it's so lack of self-respect, and I do blame porn a lot for that. It's like girls think they've got to be like a porn star or something, or got to be sexy to be loved.
But it's also on their reality TV shows, because they're all walking around in skimpy clothes on those reality TV shows as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the movies, and even these young girls that are their pop stars, right? Like this Sabrina Carpenter and some of these people, like, they're doing all this shit now. Like they want to be like them, because they're handing that's like an external thing, that they're like, they want to be like that person on the TV rather than just be themselves. That's right. Then I feel like it's pretending to be someone that they're not.
That's right. And trying to get
boys too,
be loved through being sexy rather than being who they are.
Correct.
Or being,
Like we've all been there.
of course.
I was there.
Of course. And it's a really interesting distinction. And one of the issues that comes up in the dating area
Here we go.
is that, because I train in guys and girls, is the worst thing you can do if you're looking for a relationship, but even if you're not, is just to be aware, is not to rush into sex.
Yeah.
Because-
Yeah. I like that.
Because the girl, you're not creating a safe space to get to know somebody. You've actually clouded the space. You've clouded the space because you've created a sexual energy hook with that person. And if you've got chemistry, you've got, I call it fuck fog, right? So
Well, I'm right that down.
obscured, but also particularly girls and guys, I know this, they don't, I have guys that come to me, they're young guys who'll say they feel under pressure to have sex early on in a relationship, that's what the girls want. And the girls feel the same way because there's this pressure that you need to check, make sure you're sexually compatible and we need sex, all that stuff. But what it does, that's why you have crash and burn relationships. They crash and burn. You know, people talk about marriage doesn't, you know, okay, it's a 50% chance of divorce. Look at dating. What's the percentage turnover in relationships in the dating area before they get to full-blown commitment or marriage?
Yeah, that's a good question.
There's a lot of crashing and burning. And what happens is you need to create, it's what I've learned, a safe space, a container where you say to someone, I'm really attracted to you. You can touch them or whatever, right? But I want to get to know you for your humanity, not your sexuality.
Ooh, love language.
Pardon?
That's like a love language to me. Someone saying that.
So I'll give you because you need to see whether because people always have a mask on when you meet them. They're not because people want to put on if you're really authentic and people have trained themselves, they can put their mask down when they're dating. But even then, you want to put your best self forward. So, and people will, it's a bit like people coming to a date and they got 5 pairs of sunglasses on saying, I'm really ready for a relationship. Or they say all this stuff and it's just a mask. So you don't even know that person.
But you can feel it as well. Well, I'm conscious, so I can feel it when, like, you can sort of feel whether it's, I just call it a bullshit radar, right? You can feel it.
That's right. You can still get tricked when you're conscious, though, too.
Well, I've been tricked. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. That's why this whole safe space, if you're looking for a relationship, but there's it's another conversation about the casual sex, because casual sex is never casual.
Yeah, I was in that space for a long time.
It's never casual, and because we're
I thought it was casual at the time. Yeah,
that's right. But conscious casual sex can be where you can say, look, I'm not really looking for a relationship. I just need to let you know that. But I think you're really gorgeous and I'd love to spend the night with you or whatever. If you're open to that, but you've got to make sure and what will happen sometimes is that girls, let's say from a guy's perspective, girls will go for that thinking if he sleeps with me, he'll want more.
interesting.
Because
Truth
I'm
bomb.
not saying all girls,
No.
but in the female evolutionary DNA, we are designed to want a guy to come back.
Interesting.
And it can make a woman feel used even if she agrees to it.
That makes sense. I just wanted to circle back to a couple of things you said there. You were talking about eye contact earlier. Now, a lot of our youth today, I'm big on eye contact. So if I'm looking at someone, I'm talking to someone, they have my full, whatever the word is, attention, right? And a lot of people, when they're talking, won't look at the person, or when they're listening, the eyes won't meet. A lot of people look at the ground, or they look over there and over there. What is that about? Because you mentioned it before, and a lot of our younger people and some of our older people, I have conversations with people a lot. Not many, I guess, are staring me back in the eyes. They're looking elsewhere. What's going on there? What's your perspective in terms of relationships and just general?
So I'm going to say a profound statement.
Here we go.
Who you think you're talking to is not who you think you're talking to most of the time.
Okay. Interesting.
So who
am I talking to?
Who do you think you're talking to?
Myself?
So when people are more conscious and they're more authentic and aware, they've done the work on themselves, they're more present, so they can look you in the eye. And some people naturally can do that better.
I found that too, yes.
It's about being present. But most people, when you're speaking to them, aren't present. I'll give you an example. Like, even for me, I became conscious of this the other night. So I was doing a talk about how to deal with upsets and triggers. I did a talk about it. And when I got there, I actually put this in my talk, but I should have given the example of what happened to me when I arrived at that venue, because there was a couple of people speaking to me, but I wasn't actually there. I wasn't there. I was, in my head, I'm thinking, I really don't want to speak to somebody right now because I want to be present for my talk. I want to center myself from my talk. So this person was talking to me and I was conscious I wasn't really listening. I was conscious of that, but that's what goes on. And I ended up saying, oh, sorry, I'm going to have to go out into another room because I need to get present to what I'm speaking about. But that was a classic example of I interacted with a couple of people, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. And, I was at a party the other night, and one of the ladies, we were having a conversation about a couple of deeper topics, and it ended up, she got really angry and triggered. And it came out, and it was, I couldn't work out why she's getting, because I don't want to go into coach mode because it's not appropriate. I'm thinking, why is she so triggered? And it turned out that what's going on for her, she's really concerned about her health. She's not well. And she's concerned about her relationship. It's not working very well.
Interesting.
And there'll be other stuff going on in the background, but she's making it being triggered about the conversation that we're having.
It wasn't about the conversation you were having, though, was it?
But there was something in the conversation that we were having that was triggering her too, because are you aware that 90% of our triggers, roughly 90%, could be 95%, could be 85%, are from our past?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not what's happening that we get triggered by. It's something that we're reminded by. It could be a tone of voice. It could be a smell. It could be something that's said that reminds you of something that really hurt you as a child or a teenager, or something you don't even know about.
Mm.
So we need to, that's what self-awareness is. So the less you get triggered, the more emotionally intelligent you are. Some people get triggered all the time.
Yep. I was one of those.
Yeah, so it's being aware of being outside of yourself and controlling that, and realizing that, okay, I'm being revved up about something that's about me, because it's always about us. It's always about us. I mean, obviously a trigger, if we get angry, if you've got, let's say you've got a little child and someone comes up and wants to grab the stroller and go off with your child, you're going to get triggered. You're going to get angry. You're going to get really angry and pissed off and run after them and want to kill them. I would nearly. That's what we've got anger for, is for to protect us, because it's a fear mechanism.
Yes, it
but
is.
In our everyday relationships, it's irrational anger most of the time. It's coming from our past. There's a time and a place for it, but it's irrational most of the time, like all fear. So
Are you finding people aren't allowing themselves to feel the anger though? And then it comes out like they bottle it up, bottle it up, bottle it up, and then just bang.
no, you have to feel it, right?
Yeah, because I feel like people are avoiding feeling it. So then they bottle up for however long, and then eventually it has to burst.
Okay, so that's different in conversation, right? So if you're in a relationship and you get triggered and you can see that you're getting angry, I can teach you ways that you can go through and deal with triggers. And the killers, probably we need to talk about the killers that are in relationships, the things that people do that create anger, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be aware of that, the way we communicate. So,
Yep.
so with anger, you can say to somebody, hey, I'm feeling really triggered at the moment. I'm feeling really upset. I just need to go for a run around the block or whatever. But you've got to come back. You've got to say, let's talk about this tonight, or let's sort this out later. You can't go away and just leave it. But also you've got to be aware that that anger in your body is a high chance it's reminding you of something that your mum or your dad said, or your brother when you were young, or something, and it's not about the other person. That's where you take responsibility. But that anger, you can also, when you're in that angry state, another exercise you can do is just sit and put all the stories about that person in a box, in a chest. You lock it. The stories like, that's not fair, they said that. They shouldn't have called me that. It's their fault. They did this, they did that, right? The blame game, or everything that you think, put it in a chest, lock it up, and just sit with the feeling in your body. So you just feel where that anger is. It might be in your belly, or it could be in your heart, or wherever, and you can just sit. Like, I know when people have got busy lives, it's hard to do this, but this is the time to do it. When you're right in that feeling, is to just close your eyes and just be with the feeling and accept it. It's okay. I'm human. sometimes we get reactivated and angry. Love that feeling, love that anger. Know that that's that little boy or little girl that's reacting, and hold that little boy or little girl. And when you start, you think about how much out of 10 is this anger. Where is it? If it's, say, 8 out of 10, you sit and you imagine it being released out of the bottom of your feet or out through your head to the universe or whatever. But you sit until that feeling goes down, and you love that feeling. You accept that feeling without the stories. That's the way you can release triggers that are in your body. Like, I had one once that was so bad. This is like about 8 years ago. I sat for an hour and I couldn't get the feeling down. I had to go back and do it the next day. So really, most of the time you can get it down within about 10 minutes, but it just depends. And also, when we're feeling angry with somebody, the key is to. So give me an example, Nathan. Let's do something.
Here we go.
Give me an example
of me.
So, yeah, like what's something that's happened recently where you felt triggered?
I had a conversation with my brother the other night about ego, and some people in my life have been making comments about my ego, and it's really it really bugged me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it really bugged me. Like, I thought that my friend was having a genuine problem with men in their ego, because I just thought that was her problem because she was commenting on mine. And there'd be those little digs, and I'd go, just like it was just fucking bugging me. I'm like, just like worry about your own problem with ego and stay out of my stuff. It was just bugging me for like 3 weeks.
Okay, so what was specifically said to you? Give me a sentence.
Okay, I can give you a sentence. It only happened the other night, actually.
This is perfect.
I would make a comment. So, my brother was talking about how, he's very good at picking up on my flaws. Now, I still have a few flaws. That's another thing. I thought I was his perfect person. You know what I mean? Anyway, he was picking up on one of the flaws, and I was like, that bugs me that I have that flaw. So I was like, well, that's an easy fix. And then my friend's like, oh, that was an ego comment. I was like, well, no, it is an easy fix. And then my brother's like, well, if it was an easy fix, he would have already fixed it. And I was like, oh, my fucking God.
Okay, so.
And I was like, getting that feeling. I was like, you know what? You bastards.
Right. Okay. So the key is to go with it. We won't get angry if we go with things. So it's like saying, you, rather than going against it, you go with it and say, oh, that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah. I've gotten better at saying stuff like that. Yeah.
That's interesting that you've mentioned that. I need to explore that more. And you can go back to them. How do you see it? Like, tell me more how you are seeing me in relation to this. So then you're learning and you're allowing that dance of conversation.
Yeah.
And they feel heard.
And it's just that I was taken back to that little boy that would have digs that would get digs from people all the time. So that's what the angle was. It was that little boy that would just get I could tell you 1,000 stories from that little boy that would just get a dig from ABZ through to bloody that's what it was. I felt like I was that little boy that was just constantly being told what to do, constantly being told how to be, constantly being told who and what I should be, constantly being told that, just getting constant digs. And I used to always feel that in the stomach, like I was getting kicked in the stomach every time I'd get someone have a dig at me. That's what it brought up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we're going deep here.
So you have you have seen that as criticism rather than
Yes,
contribution.
correct. So I'd always feel like I was being not attacked, but being maybe attacked. We'll go with that.
Okay,
Came
so
out for a reason.
yeah. So people see, everyone has a sentence that they run on. I want people to start, we'll come back, right? That the do you run on, have you worked out your sentence that you run on in your communication?
What do you mean by
Everyone's got one. Or
okay?
usually we've got a few.
Yeah.
For your audience and for you, I want you to start observing people.
Okay.
And it's in the auric field, but it comes out through words and body language. So, for example, sounds to me,
Here we go.
from for you, you could have a sentence, don't tell me what to do. Have you got a sentence? Do you run on that?
Yeah. 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 That's always bugged me.
Don't
Even at
tell
school, it bugged me.
Right. Because,
I used to always push the boundaries anyway, because I was like, I'll do what I want. Thanks.
okay, beautiful. We've got it. That's
There's my sentence.
one of them. That's one of them. There'll be a
Yeah.
few, right?
Yeah.
So my eldest son, who I love, who's beautiful, who's done some work on himself as well, he used to push back on me a lot.
Oh, I was that son too.
Right?
Mum will listen and watch this. She'll be nodding away right now.
So, and used to resist. Like I would suggest, we even might be helping him because he wanted to start up a business. And I might suggest, what about you try this or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember what he used to say, but he used to resist all the time. I ended up having this conversation with him. And I said to him, look, are you open to me having a conversation with you and a deeper conversation? He said, yes. And I said, have you ever thought about, because I think it was just before he got married, or he just got married. I said, have you ever thought about that you are running on, don't tell me what to do? Because every time I suggest something could make a difference to your life, you push back on me. And that doesn't work for me. I feel like you're pushing me away. And
God.
And he listened and he said, yeah, he was good. He was really good. And he said, I said, well, what if you could reframe it and see it as contribution? That people are contributing to you rather than telling you what to do.
That's what my brother said to me the other night.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There's a lot of people on this podcast that needs to hear this, obviously. And I said to him, because in a marriage, if you're running on don't tell me what to do, you're going to end up divorced.
That's probably why this has come up.
Right? A relationship's not going to work because nobody can contribute to you. And you're going to be your own worst enemy. And he ended up saying, oh, thanks, Mum. Yeah, I'll think about that, right? And he totally changed after that. He actually saw it. He totally saw it.
Well, I'm seeing it now for myself.
Good.
Right now. Having a good ponder.
There's other, you can pick up. So I'll give you another example. I went to the theatre, this was years ago, to see a play, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and I just leant over to say, oh, what brought you here? Are you looking forward to this? Just general chit chat. And he didn't answer me. Now, he wouldn't have been deaf. He wouldn't have been deaf because he was at a play that had voices. So, and he just totally ignored me. So, what do you think? What's the message he's putting out? What's his sentence? Maybe.
His sentence is probably, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
F off, leave me
Yeah. Oh,
alone.
I was gonna say that, but
Like if we get, because these sentences that we run on are an FU. And
yeah. But
they're a saboteur and they destroy connection, love, and relationships. And you've got to figure out what your sentences are. Because what happens is,
that's so true.
so mine, I'll tell you until I figured out mine, because it comes out in communication, it comes out in your jobs, it shows up everywhere.
It's been showing up for me for the last 3 months. The don't tell me what to do. I'm just sitting here going, oh, every moment, there's so many. And then obviously the weekend was like this big thing. And then Tuesday night, my brother said the exact same thing you said. And it's just the timing of our interview. You can't make this shit up, Jane.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
But it's so true, when you said I felt it here, like here, solar plexus area.
in your gut, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was years ago until I got present and transformed mine. It's always still going to lurk in the background a bit because it's been there for so long.
We'll circle back to a thing you said there.
It'll want to rear its ugly head even when you're aware of it. Mine was value me, or I'll tell you what I think, or I'll cut you out of my life if I got down to what it really was.
Wow.
How charming is that?
That's very charming.
So
That's as charming as don't tell me what to do.
It is that don't tell me what to do, or what do you do? Or what do you do afterwards?
The complete opposite.
Or I'll do the
resist.
opposite.
Yeah. Or I'll resist and do the opposite.
And you go into FU, I'll do the opposite.
Yeah, I go, yeah, you go into that FU. It's like an FU negative energy of whatever. I'll just do the opposite of what you say. Yeah. But I have that relationship with the government too. So
yes. There's a time and a place.
I think that's warranted.
There's a time and a place for it, right?
Yeah. But it's showed up in my personal life as that school child, that son. My mum will listen and watch this and she'll just be like, I can see her right now just nodding away going, I was that resistant son. I was that resistant. I was always pushing back on mum, and she'd openly admit that now too.
Because we call it the saboteur. So I call it your communication character.
Correct. But how does one integrate and transform that? Because you used that word before. So
you have to be aware, find it. Number one, you've got to find.
I've already found it.
A few sentences there. Find what it is. Be aware that it's driving you. In the past, it's been driving you. You haven't been driving it.
Correct.
So you need to be in control of it not in control of you.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. Write that down. Anyone listening and watching out there, don't let it drive you. Let you drive it. Big one.
Another common one is
probably something to do with me again.
Unconsciously can feel not good enough and a failure from various things that have happened.
I've had that in my life too.
Or maybe, mum and dad expected you to have high grades, or they'd say, oh, well, you got that grade because you didn't study hard enough, or
that's a big one.
Concentrate, or they criticize it.
Yeah.
So you create this story that you're a failure or a loser, or you're dumb, or you're stupid, or whatever.
That's a big one out there. I'll work with a lot of youth to help them unpack and integrate that story. That's a common one out there even today.
So what happens is the the communication pattern around that is you go into F you, I'll prove to you.
Yeah, fuck,
I'll
that's mine
prove to
too.
you I'm not a failure. I'll prove to you I'm not a loser.
I feel like I've been trying to prove people wrong my entire life. And it's not just people. I stand in the mirror and it's like I had this conversation where I'm trying to prove myself wrong. So you've unpacked something again there with me and probably everyone else listening and watching. I'm always at a constant UVU battle with proving to myself that I can do something or learn something or be that next level up. It's always a battle within me. But I've always felt like I've tried to prove everyone wrong in my life.
Yes. And that's the saboteur.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what will sabotage. You've told me before we came on here, you're ready for a mutually fulfilling relationship.
Oh
So,
no.
so
You're
this,
probably thinking to yourself now, oh, Nate's got a.
no, you've done a lot of work on yourself. You're amazing. However, the communication pattern, we have to be aware of us.
But
All
that's
of
what's
it.
come up for me since I set that intention of what I wanted and how I wanted to show up and all those things that I did in the last few months. This has been the thing that's shown up the most is my communication. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's been the biggest thing for me is like everything in every aspect of my life. It's been communication through business, through even organizing a podcast interview with other people, like communication. And it's showing up like slap style in the face for me, like things do. Because I've let it fester for too long. So then it's like a turkey slap for me straight in the face.
Like, yes, and even our body language with people, they pick up. You might say one thing, this is where we need to be authentic and truthful and
Yeah.
say things in a way that's caring, but be honest. Our body language will tell people when we're not being authentic.
100%.
Most people pick that up
Kids are very
unconsciously.
good at picking that up. I work with kids a lot. They're very good at picking that up. They put me back in my
Yes.
box quite a lot, actually.
Yes. So, this thing, and I think men tend to do I'm just generalizing, and boys and more than women tend to be more wanting to get their relationships right. They're all about relationships. Men are often about their work, being successful at work, and performing financially and sexually. Is that
Yep.
correct?
I would say
Yeah.
that's very much 100% bang on.
So if you're running on, I'll prove to you I'm not a failure,
Oh, yep.
that whatever you do will never be enough for yourself, and you'll be always looking to be bigger and better. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to live and be your full potential in your work, but what is the intention and the sentence behind that? Right? So if you want to be your best self and successful, that's great. But it can't come from, I'll prove to you I'm not a failure. It can't come from that, because you'll end up having a breakdown, or you'll never feel that it's enough, or
I
it's
had one of those last year.
not good
I
enough.
had one of those last year. Yeah.
I had
I
a
went, I
guy.
went, I went, I went ghost mode for about a month or two last year and had that because that was the stripping back of what you just said. I
I had
got I got burnt out trying to prove myself and prove people wrong.
And it does. It'll burn you out. It'll make you sick, or it'll
No, it did.
ruin relationships. It causes a breakdown, because the purpose of the breakdown is for us to learn the lesson and to have self-awareness. But most people can't do that by themselves. They need a coach to do it, unfortunately, because there's a lot going on in that unconscious mind. Just an example, I had a guy probably in his 40s came to me, and we were working on a lot of stuff. It's a long time ago. I can't remember it all. But what I specifically remember was he told me a story how he used to go to the gym, how he was going to the gym, and he would do so many repetitions, and he'd want to do more and more and more. And he said, I'd sometimes want to vomit, nearly vomit, because I'd push myself so hard. And what we got to is unconsciously, he was trying to prove he wasn't a failure to himself and to the world.
I've been there, not in that gym setting, but I've been there.
Yeah, it plays out everywhere, and that there's nowhere to get to, really. When we come home to ourselves, there's nowhere to get to. We are an empty space connected to God or the universe or the unified field or the consciousness.
Yeah.
We are an empty space. I am, which is the I am space. Philosophy calls it the I am space. And in that space, there's nowhere to get to. We're all perfect. It's only the mind that the negative unconscious mind from the past that drives us into suffering.
Yeah. For me, it was changing my intention of what I'm doing. And it was changing the intention that I'm doing this for me and for others to fulfill my mission here. That's what I reminded myself in about June of last year.
That's right. And the authentic self it's
because this isn't
others.
just about me.
Correct. And we have to realize every person and interaction we have with a person, and I'll add sexual contact as well, it has a ripple effect out onto that person, makes a difference to their life or their feelings about themselves or their day, or it has everything we do has a ripple effect out into the universe and out into that energy and out into our energy field. I dropped a bag of groceries not long ago outside the supermarket, and this beautiful young guy, I'd say he was in his late 20s or something, came racing up to me, and he said, "Oh, I'll help you," because I saw it on the road. I said, "Oh, you're amazing. You're extraordinary. Thank you so much. You're my knight in shining armor coming up to help me." He said, "I wish all women would think that."
Oh.
Right. And I said, "Keep doing it." I said, "Okay, even if some women say no to you opening the door or saying, 'I'm all right, I don't need help,' keep doing what you're doing, because there's women like me that will be grateful for it. Don't give up." And he acknowledged me for acknowledging him. So he made a difference to me and I made a difference to him in that exchange. So, I mean, that's a great way for men to meet women, but you've got to do it with the right intention. You don't do those things to meet women. You do it with the intention of making a difference. And along with that journey, you may happen to meet somebody. Can you see the distinction of the intention?
I can see the distinction. And that's the thing that grounds me, is that I'm making a difference. Yeah. You just grounded me there.
And also, if in life, if we're a person that's open to chatting to people, like in the supermarket or in the cash register, where you can comment, if somebody looks nice, a woman or a man, or I think they look, their hair, they've got a nice tie on, or the woman's got a beautiful dress on, or the child, look at the smile on this child, or whatever. I make comments, right? So people around you are like, people observe and they see that. So you are shining a light out of openness out into the world. And if you go out places and you're like that, that you're not just going to find a partner, you're going to actually be a light in the space, and you may or you may not meet somebody. That's right. And if you meet somebody, it doesn't mean to say that they're in alignment with you or right for you anyway. Like 90% of people you're going to meet are going to be wrong for you, probably 95%. So people get down because, oh, I've met somebody and they weren't in alignment with me, or I've met so many
Fucking
people.
been there.
It's a numbers game, right? It's a numbers game, but we have to be, we've got to know that everything that we need is inside of us. Because if we're not happy being single, the studies, it's well known, if you're not fulfilled is the word, not happy, because happiness, people want happiness externally, but if we're not fulfilled within, we will never be fulfilled in a relationship.
Yep.
But the communication pattern is a really important one. It's just, I wrote a few down here. Hang on. It's sort of sick. But there's quite a few communication patterns that push people away. Most of them are saboteur. They sabotage us.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go through the killers in communication?
Yes, let's go through the killers in communication. This is going to be another eye-opening one for me, I think.
So you can put 2 columns, write 2 columns down. I suggest everyone write this down. Remember it. It's a really amazing learning.
Hang on, I need to get my journal out here. Got stuff everywhere going on. Yes, let's go through the killers of communication, and then we can probably wrap this awesome conversation up. I need to go back and listen to this again.
Oh, gosh, that went quick.
Didn't it? No, it's when you're sort of in this space having a good conversation like this, I'm guessing the audience will be the same. It's really been nearly an hour. Yeah, it has been nearly an hour.
My goodness. I thought we were about half an hour. I've just realized. Okay, I'll say on the left-hand side, the killers, that this is scientific. The Gottmans have had a lab where they've actually worked out, and they've followed couples for years and years and years, and they've worked out what totally destroys relationship and the chance of its survival.
And what is that?
These are the killers.
All right, let's go.
Right. So if you're defensive when somebody says something to you, now obviously there's other things that we've talked about. You need to be self-aware and everything. And you need to be trustworthy in a relationship. You can't be cheating. All those things. This is separate. This is communication. Defensiveness, which is when somebody might say to you, hey, I thought you were going to put the rubbish out tonight and you haven't done it, right? And you go, but I did it last week.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to talk to me like that. So what you do is what we were talking about before is you don't become reactive, and you go, yes, you actually go with it. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't do that. Whoops.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I should have done it. And I can see that you're upset because I didn't do it. Another way of dealing with defensiveness is to say, oh, that's interesting that you think that. Like if someone, like what we said before, it's interesting that you think that. Can you tell me more about that, how you see this? Let's say if you're having a difficult conversation about politics or something like that, or whatever it is, rather than being defensive, but, which ends up being, oh, that's interesting that you think that. Tell me how you see it. If you've got some figures around that or whatever. I'd love to see your side of it.
So you're
And
more open to the other side.
you're curious is the word on the other side. On the other side of the thing is you're open and you're curious rather than going, but you didn't do it, or but.
Yeah, I
Right.
like that. Yeah.
The next one is criticism.
Oh, spoke about that early with me.
Yeah. So because in society we're not trained in communication, we've come from dysfunctional, most of us have come from dysfunctional families. We tend to say the word you first. You always do that, or you never do that. Women can often say that. Horrible, right? Doesn't work. So you is pointing the finger outwards. Now you got to remember, when we point the finger outwards, there's four fingers pointing back at us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you never help me with the dishes. You always drive so erratically, or whatever like that. If you want to say something, just say, hey, I need to let you know, I use the word I feel unsafe when you drive so fast. I feel like you're putting my life at risk.
If my brother's listening, he can drive erratically.
Or, yeah, or you're using the word I, not you. But if someone criticizes you and they say, you always do that, you can say, again, you can be curious. Just say, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. It sounds to me like you're feeling upset by that. And like, tell me more about that. You can be curious again. Or else you can say, if someone says, you always do that, you can put it back to them and say, breathe. You've always got to remember, breathe for about 5 seconds before you talk.
Yes.
That dislodges triggers too.
Yes, it's something I'm getting better at.
You can say, are you saying that I'm lazy? And you can just stop. Are you saying I'm lazy? And let them answer. Or are you saying I never do that? Do you really mean that?
Hmm.
Or you can always say, hey. Another way is to say, can you reframe that, please? I'm feeling criticized. Can you reframe that? Can you say that in another way? So it's allowing the space to respond in a different way. The next one is stonewalling. Stonewalling, wonderful in dating. You know, people go out with somebody and what's the other word it's called? I know it really well. In dating, it's called where you just don't answer.
Oh, ghosting.
Ghosting.
Yeah, ghosting.
So stonewalling's like ghosting, and it's no communication is the nastiest form of communication, or one of them. So even if you go out with somebody on a date, you can just say to them, hey, it was really nice to meet you, but I don't think we're in alignment. All the best. Right?
Yeah, it's not hard.
It's not hard. And it's manners.
Yes.
So stonewalling is when men have a tendency to do this more than women, because women want to talk about things, which drives men crazy and makes them run away, is where I'm out of here. I'm going for a run. And they won't answer the concern. They'll just disappear.
Oh, I used to do that a lot.
Right? That's called stonewalling. So if you feel, again, one of men's work can also teach you to say, hey, I'm feeling triggered right now. I don't know how to answer this. I'm just going to go for a run. We'll come back and we'll talk about it later. So it has to be done within 24 hours. Otherwise, you'll drive your partner absolutely crazy, or somebody crazy. And what a lot of people do is it gets buried under the rug and it gets bigger than being
bigger and bigger. Yeah. Yep.
because issues aren't resolved.
No. And then they come up down the road, but then all the other ones come up down the road and it's this big thing when it doesn't really need to be that big thing because things weren't addressed is why it's the big thing. Correct?
Yes. The other
Correct.
key for men in particular is because I don't like emotion. It's harder for guys.
And
Emotion
why actually, well,
harder
that's another conversation, another
harder for
time.
guys to deal with. Not it's that men are emotional creatures, but dealing with emotion and conversation is harder for men.
Can be.
So is to the men's work often is to for men to learn to stay in a woman's storm and not to leave.
Ooh.
Stay in a storm is another technique, or to do the other one where you say, I'm just feeling triggered right now and I'll come back. But you just let the woman vent, it's like just listen. And then give her say, come here and give her a hug or whatever. Or ask her what she needs at the end. Don't try and fix it. And don't be triggered. Anyway, then last one, be quick, is sorry, Nathan. The last one, so much stuff we can talk about.
I know. We nearly unpacked men's emotion, why that is, but that's another conversation for another time.
The last one is contempt, where somebody undermines your character. It's character assassination.
Yeah.
So they'll call you fucking asshole, or excuse my French, or whatever.
No, I've been called that a lot in my life.
Or you're a piece of crap, or you don't know what you don't know what you're talking about. All that stuff is really undermining. And again, you can say, hey, that doesn't work for me. Can you reframe that? Or can you say that in another way? But you have to breathe and not get triggered and be calm. Because the more calm you are, the more you go with it. It just passes by and the other person can't do anything with it. But you also have to be aware you can't be saying and doing things like that to people. That's going to screw your life up if you're going to call people names or put them down in public or in your personal life. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And I've had both ends of the spectrum in my life over the years, even just starting this podcast and speaking about what I speak about, I get that stuff quite regularly. But, it's never in person though. It's always over a screen though, right?
Yes. People can be super nasty behind a computer.
So I come and say it to my face. It's like you won't because I'll bloody knock your lights out.
Yeah, and another way is you just ignore it because it's online and it does.
Oh, I always ignore them. I never respond.
Yeah.
Sometimes people that are friends with me or passing by the post will respond. It'll be this big thing. I'll just like a couple of comments and I'm out of there. It's like if it's like I have the power to choose to respond to what I respond to. If a person's genuinely being open and wants to know my side, I'll respond. But if it's just a nasty comment, they can just sit there. Their friends of friends are seeing it. So if it impacts their friends of friends, my job's done. That's how I view it now.
Yeah, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us.
I used to sit there and respond. I used to sit there and delete comments and delete the person. It's like, well, why do that? Just fucking let the comments sit there. It doesn't bother me.
Yes, yeah. And again, we could say, oh, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And just be with it. It's okay.
Thanks for the comment because now more people are seeing the post or the video. So comment away, positive, negative, whatever. It doesn't worry me.
They say negative advertising's good for your views, right?
Exactly.
And it says more about that person. When somebody's being nasty to you, it says more about them.
Yeah, I agree.
You've got to remember that.
I've had people be nasty to me all the time. People are kind, people are nasty. It's just that balance, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for the
Thank you, Jane. If there is something to wrap all this up with, you've given my viewers and listeners and myself a lot to ponder today, as you did last time, which is probably why it took 3 years to get you back on because it was a 3-year ponder.
Was it 3 years?
Almost.
3 years? Oh my goodness me.
Anyway, I remember it was a really hot day. And anyway, if there's something for my listeners that are single, what would be your advice to the single person, Jane? You're talking to me right now because I'm currently single.
Become the person you want to be with. Become the man. Become the lover you're looking for.
Ooh, that's a good way to finish.
Yeah.
Jane, thank you for your time for my audience and my viewers. I have had a few emails about when you're getting Jane back on, so it's good to have you back on. And yeah, we're not going to wait 2 years. I think we need to do another one in the next few months again. And you seem to have come back into my life at the right time. So I've set some intentions, and here's Jane.
You're a legend.
So are you,
Nathan.
Jane.
I
I love
acknowledge
the
your
work you're
work
doing.
for young people. It's amazing.
Thank you
Okay.
very much for your time for my audience.
Have a wonderful week and day. And when I see you next, bye.
Bye. See you guys. Breaking Free
Bye.
podcast is done.